Hello, and thank you so much for making time to join me on Climate Check. I'm your host, Mary Mwekisa. Today's show will focus on the energy sector because we know that Zambia is currently dealing with an energy deficit as a result of a drought that we are experiencing as a country. And so we'll be discussing alternative energy sources and, of course, how the renewable energy sector is coming up in Zambia. We know that government recently approved the open access policy on electricity, and this is one of the measures that has been put in place to help the situation that we're dealing with of the energy deficit. And we'll be talking to Mr. Michael Sakala, who is energy lead from WWF Zambia in that regard. Also on the program, we will be discussing all things tree planting, mindset change, and empowering the young people with the knowledge on mitigating climate change. And so we'll be discussing the initiatives that Chilengedwe, a social enterprise, is doing in schools, encouraging the young people to plant trees and take care of these trees. And so we'll be talking to Chisanga Mwanza, who is lead consult at Chilengedwe on the program. And also, we will be listening to a package that has been compiled by our staffer, Dominic Chifumbe, regards the recently approved open access policy on electricity. This makes up today's show. Do stay tuned and join me on the other side. Now, imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi. Just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now, you are the solution to climate change. Welcome back to Climate Check, and joining me in studio right now is Chisanga Mwanza, who is lead consult at Chilengedwe. And we'll find out more about the organization before we talk about what it is that they are doing in the climate change space. Thank you so much, Chisanga, for making time.
Thank you. As always, Mary.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to always talk to you.
It is always a pleasure to have you in my company.
All right. So now let's first understand what Chilengedwe is all about. I know that the last time you and I had a conversation was in Egypt, and you spoke about what Chilengedwe does, but that's like 2 years ago. So please refresh our minds.
Thank you. Actually, we had a conversation in Dubai. We were together at COP28.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to being with you at COP29 in Baku, hopefully, as we journey along. But yes, thank you so much for that question. So Chilengedwe is a social enterprise. It's a communication social enterprise whose focus is on communicating issues around climate change. So advocacy, this means educating the citizenry, equipping the citizenry, and also uniting and inspiring our citizens to live a greener lifestyle. So this is what we are about.
Okay. Let's talk about the enrichment program that you are currently doing in local schools. Where did this come from?
So you see, Mary, again, when we talk about communication, we found that there was a kind of a deficit in our local schools in the sense that perhaps maybe the private schools have better access to information, technology, and so in their learning environments, they're able to have access to this. And in our local schools, maybe not so much. So we decided that we would set up an enrichment program. And our hope in the beginning of this enrichment program is that we would get the larger private schools, to sponsor, adopt local community schools in the environments that they work in, so that they operate in, so that they can then share the knowledge. So we were looking for a platform of knowledge sharing. So our enrichment programs are very focused on environmental education, sustainability, conservation. And in sustainability, conservation, and climate change education, there's tree planting activities that happen. There's recycling activities that happen. Talking of renewable energy as your topic is today. So when we go into the schools, we have had a very wonderful partner who, when we set up Chilengedwe 3 years ago, came on board with us, the Wildlife Conservation Society. They've got 2 programs that have been magnificent over the years, because I remember being a part of one of these programs when I was in primary school. And this program is Chongololo. So there's the Chongololo and the Chipembele clubs. The Chongololo club is a club that is usually run in the primary schools, and and then the Chipembele Club is run in the secondary schools. So we got into a partnership with them, and what we do to run our enrichment program is that the landing platform is the conservation club. So we go into local schools, set up the conservation club, and from that conservation club, we then begin to equip our learners. We then begin to educate them, to entice them to get into projects, and to see whatever it is that we can do. I must applaud the local schools, that the government schools, the community schools that we've gone to. They've been so enthusiastic to be a part of this program. It's an alternative for them. It's an extracurricular activity, and the learners are also very enthusiastic.
What are some of the key environmental issues and challenges that Chilengedwe, through your work, have addressed?
Sustainable tree planting, Mary. So as you know, over the years, there's always been activities around tree planting. But when you do go back and see where the trees have been planted, do we normally find them? A lot of the times we don't. And the reason we don't find those trees thriving or growing is because there's been no sustainability aspect attached to them. You know, are you empowering? When you go and run a tree planting activity, you have to empower people to be able to look after those trees. And you've got to give them a reason why they're doing it.
Yes.
You know, we have been running tree planting activities, and our focus has been twofold. For the first fold is when we do plant the trees in these community schools or in the communities that we go into, is we plant the fruit trees. Those are very easy to sustain, and because the people that are empowered to look after these plants already know that there's a product that's going to come. If I look after this tree,
it's a natural decision. Yes,
there's going to be a fruit that is going that's going to be produced, and I'm going to benefit. My community is going to benefit. My school is going to benefit. But then we also have to plant indigenous trees, because remember, when the deforestation is taking place, it's not the fruit trees that are being cut down. It's the indigenous trees, that are being cut down. So when we go into the schools, first of all, through the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, they have a forestry department. So we do get advice from them, and they tell us which trees we can plant in which environment and how they should be looked after. So we take that information as part of the learning process and take it to the children in the club that we've set up and discuss with them that we're going to plant these sort of trees here, and this is how you've got to look after them. And the reason why you have to look after indigenous trees is because these are the trees that are being cut down, and therefore we have to find a way in which we can replenish them. So those are some of the activities. Also, plastic collection. So we distribute bins, and would distribute various bins, so recycling bins that are labeled so that they can separate the waste first of all. So we'll have a food waste container. In that food waste container, there's a project that we'll run to make compost, and that compost is going to be used to nourish the soil in which those trees are growing. And then there's the plastic waste. The plastic waste can be collected. Very recently, we partnered with an organization called New Tech, and New Tech have come on board and say they will collect all the plastic in all the schools where we've set up a recycling bin for plastic, and they will use it. And once they've collected enough of it to make they'll tell us how many kgs that they need to have collected from us. They will then donate a table, a desk, which is from that recycled material.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great, because then there's value attached to that plastic. Absolutely. And then we don't litter. So we value the plastic and put it where it should be put.
Absolutely.
But then all these things that you're saying, I'm just thinking about a budget that should be attached to it, because it's a lot of work.
It is.
How can corporate partners and any other organization that may want to help you come on board? Are you open to partnerships? Are you open to support?
Because we're a social enterprise, Mary, our lives depend, the livelihood of Chilengedwe depends on partners, cooperating partners, larger organizations that want to come on board and live out their social corporate responsibility through promoting climate change issues. And this is through, I think the project is quite diverse in the sense that if an organization comes on board with us and they want to, say, for instance, celebrate Earth Day. So we've had corporates in the past trusts that have come on board. They celebrate Ocean Day, commemorate Ocean Day, Earth Day, and how they come on board with us is that then they sponsor the school. They sponsor the community school and help cover the cost of the trees, the cost of setting up the recycling bins and that sort of thing. So we're very open to that. Something that is being totally ignored is that there needs to be an investment in running awareness campaigns. You see, you cannot change the mindsets of people without informing them the reason why you're wanting to change the mindset. Very well and good, you can run a project, but if you run a project and your people are not informed, your target audience is not informed as to the reason why you're doing it, it's going to be very difficult for you to get a buy-in from them. And so we would like corporates to be open-minded to the idea that they can actually sponsor awareness campaigns. And this is the future for Chilengedwe. We believe that as soon as mindsets are changed, everything else is going to fall in place. People are going to realize why it's better for them to not use charcoal, but to use gas. And when you're asking them to use LPG cooking gas instead of using charcoal,
they have the information.
They have the information available. They know the benefits. They also get to understand the safety around all of that. You know, we want people to change, but we're not giving them the knowledge and the information as to the reason why they should change. And this is why we're there.
Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. Now we're focusing on all issues, the energy sector, because we know that as a country we're dealing with an energy crisis because of the drought that we're experiencing, and our hydro-powered energy has been affected. And so today on the program, we are focusing on renewable energy and every other issue around the energy sector. And I'm joined in studio by Mr. Michael Sakala, who is energy lead at WWF Zambia. Thank you so much for joining us and for making time.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, now before we do this interview, our staffer Dominic Chifumbe was out in the field and he packaged this report, which has to do with recently approved open access policy on electricity, and this is what he had to gather.
With the energy crisis that Zambia has been grappling with, recently government approved the open access policy on electricity. This is in order to attract more investment in the energy sector and cushion on the energy deficit. New energy science and technology engineer Boniface Zulu has applauded government for the open access policy on electricity and said it is a long-term process and that there is need to invest in infrastructure and results will be seen in the long run.
Of course, it's actually a very good move. This policy was supposed to be actually implemented 10 years ago, but it's now being put into actualization now. The benefits are not going to be reaped in the next 5 years. It's a long-term process, because the open access policy also comes with its own hurdles and challenges. And the main hurdles, firstly, is the infrastructure. The national grid that we have as a country cannot accommodate for huge amounts of intermittent energy sources. So we need to upgrade our energy system to what is known as a smart grid. So that smart grid is going to enable independent power producers to produce energy from solar and wind energy, and then that energy can be put onto the national grid. And also these independent power producers will have a challenge in some cases because they'll be using the same ZESCO lines. So if ZESCO is using their lines, meaning that these independent power producers will not be able to directly sell their energy to their consumers. So meaning that they also need to start planning for their own grid that will support their systems. So these are hurdles, challenges that will be faced in implementing the open access electricity. policy. And also, this will also give the capability of ordinary Zambians also producing their own energy and consuming their own energy, and then excess energy can be put onto the grid. So they'll be known as prosumers, people that can produce as well as consume their energy, and excess energy can be put into the grid.
With the current droughts that Zambia has been facing, the future of hydroelectricity looks blurry. Engineer Zulu said there is need for energy diversification.
Firstly, overdependence on hydro energy is one big problem that we have been faced with as a country, because over 83% of Zambia's total generation mix is coming in from hydro, and only 9% is coming in from thermal, which is coal. Then we've got 5% coming in from heavy fuel. Then we've got 3% coming in from solar. So when you look at that energy mix, there's overdependence, and also most of the hydropower stations are situated in the southern part of the country, which is very prone to droughts.
There are various energy sources alternatives that one can turn to aside from hydroelectricity, and solar has been one of the major alternatives. However, Matandemwewa, Solar Industry Association president of Zambia, says they are definitely making strides to ensure that people are aware on how they can use solar.
I think this is one thing that the solar industry has been trying to do in the recent past. One of our objectives in the constitution is to ensure that people are aware of the usage of solar, the capabilities and what you can do with solar. And so you'll see that our Facebook page, the Solar Industry Association of Zambia, it has been posting some of these videos in terms of just making awareness or people to know how they can actually use solar. And we've done a number of trainings with cooperating partners like GIZ, Teveta from government, to ensure that people at least are aware, and also the technocrats or the students that are actually graduating into society know exactly how to use and install these items.
Charcoal burning is discouraged, and Engineer Zulu is encouraging the use of clean energy.
The morphology of charcoal itself releases carbon dioxide, which is, of course, every tree is actually a carbon storage. So you store that carbon within the trees. So when you burn up the tree, you release the carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, of which this causes a ripple effect on our climate.
The open access policy on electricity will present more opportunities for investment in the energy sector by the private investors and independent power producers. In order to save, we need to switch from hydro to other clean sources of energy. Reporting for Climate Check, I'm Dominic Davis, Chifumbe.
Welcome back. Now, Mr. Sakala, I would like for us to refer to that clip on the fact that it's talking about the approval of the open access policy on electricity. What is your take on this approved policy? How does it help the country?
Well, it's quite long overdue. Okay. With the situation that we have now, it's quite important that we look at the solutions. So this is now looking at inclusivity and also making flexible policies that will now enable other players to come into the sector. Yeah, as you may know, ZESCO has enjoyed the single buyer model. That's what it's called. Okay. So where they've been the only parastatal to run the affairs of the energy sector. Yeah. So there's now an invitation to step out and remodel this structure, so that other players can also have equal shares in terms of the privileges to sell the power. Okay. And this is in the light of the climate change, induced a situation that we're seeing now. Yeah, we're seeing very poor rains. Kariba and the other places are not getting enough water for hydropower generation. And from the commissioning of Kafio Gojlowa, we've gone up in terms of our percentage of the power, total power, hydro versus the total stored power, which is not quite good, because it's not safe, it's risky like now. Yeah, so you're sitting at 86% of hydro. With now the situation, you drop down that bigger chunk of the percentage that we have. So how can we now attract more investment? How can we attract more players, other independent power producers, to do large-scale solar plants. So we needed to look at amending the policies. So we've supported very, very important programs. So the one I'll talk about is the Integrated Resource Plan. So that has been done, and it was launched this year in February. I think 12th February 2024. So what this policy now means is that the next 30 years, it's guiding how we can introduce new technologies. So let's say the next 5 years, we're looking at having more solar plants as opposed to hydro. So this will now strike a balance. If I can recall, I think it talks about 1,555 megawatts of solar has to be done the next 5 years. So this will help us now to strike that balance. So instead of leaning more on doing more hydro, we want to do more solar so that we strike that balance and we have that energy mix that we need and the energy security that we need at the moment, yes. So we're very happy as WWF because, again, I think many people ask, what's the connection? Why are you interested to support energy programs? Why are you interested to support the government with these programs? It's this nexus. We want that pressure that we have on water, the rivers, the biodiversity there has to also have a relief. We're also straining the biodiversity that is in the fresh water, and also the trees. Right now, charcoal has suffered, so more trees are being cut because of this problem. So we're trying to address the problem by asking ourselves the question, what are the drivers? So if we check that it's because of the energy mix that is lacking, it's because of the energy deficit, then how do I address this? We go to the policies, we go in reverse and go and sort out that problem there so that we create the enabling environment now that will make this sector more resilient in terms of managing the climate change impacts.
We've heard sentiments from various stakeholders in the energy sector that as a country, our tariff is not cost reflective and it's creating a bit of resistance from people investing into this country in terms of energy. Is this the correct version? Is this true? And if so, what should be done?
Yeah, it's very true. If we even did a benchmarking with other countries, just in the Southern African region, it's very true. If you go to Malawi, you find the tariff is 12 cents. Right now,
so Zambia is the cheapest.
It's the cheapest, yes. Unfortunately, yes. I would want to enjoy paying a little money for my power. Yeah. But what it means is, imagine you're an investor, and you're now trying to come and invest in Africa. You have to benchmark. Yeah. Where is it more attractive for me to have a return on investment? So if they see Zambia, first of all, have you seen how much we pay for 100 kilowatt hour of power? We're paying 40 ngwe. 40 ngwe in dollars is less than $2. So how can we be attractive? It's very difficult. So we would want, yes, the nice things. We would want all this energy, on the energy projects. We would want more investment.
But it comes at a cost.
But yes, we need to see the cost effectivity of the tariff so that, on paper, we're attractive. Someone on his checklist will say, yes, Zambia is a destination for investment. And I think this is what the government is trying to do. We want to see if we can have tariffs that are quite attractive to the investors.
So how can you strike a balance, quite all right, even as we try to make the tariff attractive, but also for the people to be able to afford this energy? Are there any recommendations at a household level? Is that something I can do maybe to be off the grid and so on and so forth?
Firstly, we need to start with looking at using alternatives. When I say alternatives, I'm not talking about using charcoal. No. So gas, our uptake and use of gas in Zambia is very low. I think most of us have learned that gas is very efficient. It's very convenient, especially now with load shedding. Imagine you're waking up in the morning and you need to prepare for work. Gas is helping a lot. You can do some bathing water and stuff. And that's quite good, yes. So we need to see, I think, a lot of such things happening. And again, Zambia has remained behind. Other countries are quite ahead in terms of use of gas. And we need to also start moving and catching up with others. So if we do that, it would be much better for other stakeholders to get involved. In most of the countries, developed countries, even our neighbors, they're utilizing, pay-go systems, paying slowly. Other companies are at a level where they can come to my house, they do the installation, and they bill me like Zesco. Imagine someone brings gas to my house, all the installations are done, nicely piped, then I'm paying like I'm paying for Zesco. That becomes very easy.
That's actually very good.
So these are some of the models that would want to, I think, take to the private sector. Those who have the capacity to scale up, the financial institutions, the banks, we need such models to be sponsored so that we make it flexible for all of us to do.
So are these initiatives under the open access policy?
The open access is just looking at power.
Only the electricity?
Electricity, yes. So that one is, do you want me to talk about it in details?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this is basically looking at how we can have more players in the sector. but those with excess can still sell the power to the grid. For example, if you had maybe a 20 kilowatt system and you're only using 7 as an example, that excess, that's what's called the net.
Okay.
So your usage minus the total, yes, that's the net that is going down to the grid. So that can be utilized, and in the end you also get the benefits as a person. So it helps the government and all of us to have a win-win situation, because I have some monetary benefit out of the
Out
scheme.
of the extra.
Yeah.
Now, I've come to the end of this week's edition of Climate Check. I will be back again next week, same time, same channel. Ensure to do your part in taking care of the planet, because we only have this planet Earth to live on. Thank you so much for your time. Goodbye.